My husband said, "You're not fun anymore. I want a trial separation." I replied, "Done." Then I froze. Welcome back with a new real shock story. Before we start, comment and tell me which city you're watching from. At the end, don't forget to subscribe and rate it from 0 to 10. Let's enjoy the story, everyone.
It started like any other evening, but something inside me already felt off. I remember sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of tea, my fingers wrapped tightly around the mug. The warmth seeped into my hands, but it didn't touch my heart. He came home later than usual that day, and I noticed it's something about the way he walked in, quiet and heavy, like he was carrying something I wasn't meant to see. I tried to smile. "Hey, how was work?" I asked, but the words felt small, almost pointless. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he set his bag down, pulled off his coat, and just stood there. The air in the room felt heavier, thicker. I kept waiting for him to speak, but the silence stretched longer than it should have. Then he said it, 3 words that would change everything. "You're not fun." At first, I thought I'd misheard him. My heart skipped. "What?" I asked softly, almost hoping he'd laugh and say it was a joke. But there was no humor in his tone. He said it again, clear, firm, and almost cold. "You're not fun anymore. I want a trial separation." I froze. I don't even think I breathed for a moment. Those words echoed in my head. Trial, separation. Like it was some kind of casual thing you try on like a sweater. But for me, it felt like the ground was pulling away under my feet. My whole life, our life, was just unraveling. I looked at him, searching for something, an explanation, a sign, anything to tell me I was wrong. But all I saw was certainty, and something else, fear. I don't know if it was his fear or mine, maybe both. I said the only thing I could think of, "Done." But the moment those words left my mouth, it was like the air disappeared. My own voice sounded strange, empty. Then, I froze. I couldn't move, my mind went blank. I just stared at him, trying to understand how we got here. The days after that were unbearable. It was like living in a dream where nothing made sense. He avoided me, and when we did speak, it was guarded, distant. No more laughter, no more warmth. Just fragments of conversations that ended before they began. I kept asking myself, was it something I did, something I missed? It felt like living in slow motion. Every glance, every step, every word felt loaded. I couldn't sleep, I couldn't eat. I was there in the same house, but it was no longer my home. I began noticing little things, the way he would suddenly leave the room, the way he kept his phone face down, the way he avoided my eyes. One night, I couldn't take it anymore. My heart pounding like a drum in my chest, I decided to follow him, not in a way that made sense, not in a calm way, but out of desperation. I needed answers. I needed to know if this was really over or if something was being hidden from me. He drove without a word. I kept a safe distance, watching as the familiar streets gave way to ones I didn't recognize. He pulled up in front of a building I had never seen him visit before. I stayed in the car, hidden in the shadows, my breath caught in my throat. My mind raced with questions, each one heavier than the last. Through a cracked window, I saw him step inside. A few minutes later, another person joined him. A woman. They spoke quietly, too quietly for me to hear, but I saw it in their faces. Tension, secrecy, something dangerous. My chest tightened. I wanted to leave. I wanted to run away. But I couldn't. I needed to know. The next few days were even harder. Strange messages appeared on my phone, text messages I didn't understand. Things out of place in my home. Whispered phone calls that stopped when I entered the room. And then I found something that shattered the little world I thought I knew. Photographs, letters, evidence, things that hinted at betrayal. Beyond just things that hinted at a truth I wasn't ready for. And I realized it wasn't just our marriage. It was something much bigger. Something that would pull me into a world I couldn't escape. That was the moment I knew my life had changed forever. And whatever was coming next, I had no idea how to stop it. I couldn't sleep that night. My mind was a whirlwind of questions, of half-truths, of shadows I couldn't name. Every sound in the house felt louder. The hum of the refrigerator, the ticking of the clock, even my own breathing. I kept telling myself I was imagining things, but deep down I knew I wasn't. The next morning, I woke up earlier than usual. I sat at the edge of my bed, staring at my hands, trying to piece together what had happened. Every memory of him, the way he smiled, the way he laughed, felt different now, like they belonged to someone else's life. I kept going over that night in my head, the look in his eyes, the way he avoided my gaze, that strange tension in the air. By mid-morning, I knew I had to act. I needed proof. I needed to know the truth. So I started following him again, not with a plan, because I had none, just with instinct. And that instinct led me deeper into something I never expected. He didn't go back to that building this time. Instead, he drove farther through neighborhoods I had never been to, places with dimly lit streets and unfamiliar faces. My heart pounded harder with every turn. I felt like I was crossing into dangerous territory, and maybe I was, but something inside me told me I couldn't turn back now. Finally, he stopped in front of a small cafe tucked between two old buildings. He didn't notice me watching. He stepped inside without looking back. I stayed in my car, silent, my breath fogging the windows. Through the glass, I saw him meet someone, a man. They spoke in low voices. I couldn't hear what was said, but their body language told me it wasn't casual conversation. They exchanged a thick envelope, and I felt my stomach dropped. It wasn't just betrayal anymore. It was something dangerous. I didn't know what was inside that envelope, but I knew it mattered. My instincts screamed at me to leave, but my heart told me to stay. I sat there for what felt like hours, watching them disappear inside. I felt like I was in a movie, the kind where the lead character realizes too late that they've stepped into something far bigger than themselves. That night, I couldn't bring myself to ask him about it. We barely spoke. I watched him move around the house as if nothing had happened. And I wondered how many lies I had been living with, without even knowing. Days passed, but my curiosity turned into obsession. I began keeping notes, taking pictures, recording details in my phone. Every detail seemed like a clue that I desperately needed to understand. And the deeper I dug, the more I realized, this was no ordinary separation. This was a story with layers I could barely grasp. That one night, while going through the notes I'd collected, I found something that stopped me cold, a document with my name on it. My breath caught. It wasn't just about him anymore. It was about me. And maybe something even bigger. That night, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, unable to sleep. I knew there was no turning back. I had stepped into a truth I couldn't ignore. The next morning, I made a decision. I wasn't going to be a victim of silence anymore. I was going to find out what was going on, even if it destroyed everything I had left. And deep down, I knew the moment I took that step, my life would never be the same again. I woke up the next morning with a strange mix of fear and determination. My mind was restless, turning over everything I'd seen: the envelope, the meeting, the document with my name on it. It felt like I was standing at the edge of a cliff, looking down into something I didn't understand, but knowing that one step would change everything. I told myself to be careful, but curiosity had its claws in me now. I began to watch him more closely, following his every move without him knowing. I started keeping a log: times he left, where he went, who he met. Every meeting became a thread I wanted to pull, even though I knew it might unravel something dangerous. One evening, he left again without saying a word. This time, I decided to follow him far past the familiar streets. He drove into a part of town I'd never been to, dark streets lined with shuttered shops, streetlights flickering like ghosts. My pulse was racing. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly it hurt. Every instinct screamed at me to turn back, but I couldn't. He stopped at an old warehouse. No lights, no signs, just silence. I parked across the street, heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I watched him slip inside. A few minutes later, a group of men emerged. They moved quickly, voices low, as if they knew they were being watched. My breath caught. My whole body tensed. I couldn't hear their words, but I could feel the weight of what was happening. My mind spun with possibilities. Was it money? Was it something illegal? Was it my life he was entangled in without me knowing? I knew I had to find out. Over the next few days, I became obsessive. I started piecing together the scraps of information I had. Late at night, I'd go over every message, every photograph, every movement. It became a puzzle I couldn't stop trying to solve, no matter how much it frightened me. One night, I decided to confront him, but not directly, not yet. I waited until he was distracted, then slipped the envelope I'd taken from his bag into my purse. I wanted answers, and I knew he wouldn't give them willingly. This was no longer about a marriage breaking apart. This was about uncovering something dangerous that had been hidden from me for months, maybe years. That night, I sat alone in my room, staring at the envelope. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside were papers, photographs, and documents that made my chest tighten. My name, dates, names I didn't recognize. It wasn't just personnel, it was something much bigger, something I couldn't fully understand yet. Fear gripped me, but so did a strange resolve. I wasn't going to let this go. I told myself I had to follow it to the end, even if it meant losing everything, my home, my marriage, my safety. I felt like I had crossed the line. There was no going back now. As I sat there in the dark, reading through the documents, I realized this wasn't just about him. It was about truth, about justice, and maybe even about survival. But I had no idea just how dangerous the next steps would be. And the deeper I dug, the more I feared what I might find and whether I would be ready to face it. That night, I couldn't sleep. My mind was spinning with everything I'd uncovered, the envelope, the photographs, the names. It felt like a storm inside me, a mix of dread and determination. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw his face, not just the man I thought I knew, but someone I now feared I didn't know at all. The next day, I decided I couldn't wait any longer. I needed answers. I had to confront him, and I had to see what he would say when I showed him the truth. My hands were shaking as I placed the envelope on the kitchen table. He came in later, tired, quiet, still pretending nothing had happened, but I could see the strain behind his eyes. Without a word, I slid the envelope toward him. He froze, his breath catching. I saw him glance at the contents, then look away. There was something in his expression, something between fear and regret. "You shouldn't have opened this," he finally said, his voice low, but I couldn't stop now. I pushed harder, needing the truth. He sank into a chair, his shoulders heavy, like the weight of a world he'd been carrying alone. Then he began to speak, not in full sentences, but fragments, pieces of something dark. He told me about threats, hidden deals, and names I couldn't yet understand. The world I had lived in, the safe, familiar world, was collapsing. Then came the moment that broke me. He admitted that I wasn't safe anymore, that what I had stumbled into wasn't just his secret, it was something much larger. Something dangerous enough to destroy lives. He told me I had to leave, that staying here would put me in harm's way. But I couldn't turn away now. Later that night, I went back to the warehouse. I knew it was reckless, but I had to see for myself. I parked far away and watched. Figures moved in and out of the building, shadows slipping through the darkness. My heart pounded so loud I thought they might hear it. Then I saw him again, speaking urgently to those men. His voice was sharp, filled with desperation. I wanted to run, to escape, but my feet stayed rooted. I knew I was witnessing something that would change everything. That's when I heard footsteps behind Memphis, deliberate. My breath caught. I turned, but there was nothing there. My chest tightened. I knew then that this wasn't just about me or him anymore. This was bigger than both of us. And in that moment, I realized I was already in too deep. The morning after that night at the warehouse, I woke up feeling like I had been carrying the weight of the world in my chest. Everything was different now. Every sound, every shadow, every quiet moment felt heavier. I couldn't ignore what I'd seen, what I knew. I was no longer the same Alec who had been living in the comfort of ignorance. I packed a small bag that morning, my phone, my wallet, the envelope, and a few personal things. I didn't know where I would go, but I knew I couldn't stay. He had warned me, not just as a husband, but as someone who knew something dangerous that I could never undo. His eyes that morning were tired, full of something I couldn't name: regret, fear, sorrow. We didn't speak. Words felt useless now. As I stepped out, I glanced back at the home I had built with him. Memories, flash laughs, quiet mornings, arguments, and promises. It all felt like a dream fading into something harsh and cold. The street was quiet, the air heavier than usual. Somewhere deep inside me, I knew this was the end of one life and the terrifying beginning of another. I found a small cafe a few blocks away and sat down, still gripping the envelope. Opening it again, I traced my fingers over the photographs and papers. They weren't just evidence, they were a testament, a proof that things in this world were not as they seemed, that injustice could live quietly in shadows, that some truths are dangerous to uncover. I thought about how many times I had walked past injustice without seeing it, how many times I had told myself, it's not my problem. Now it was mine, whether I wanted it or not. And I wondered how many others are living with secrets like mine, afraid to speak out, afraid to risk everything. I don't know what happens next. I don't know if I'm safe, but I do know one thing: I can't stay silent. This story isn't just mine. It belongs to everyone who has been ignored, silenced, or told their fear didn't matter. As I walked away from that cafe, I felt the weight shift slightly, not gone, but different. It was no longer just a burden. It was a purpose. And I knew this truth: if we don't face injustice, it never goes away. So I keep moving forward, carrying the story with me, asking myself and now asking you, how far are we willing to go to uncover the truth? And maybe the real question is, how much longer will we look away?